Well, Dr. Amy Stark is an author and respected clinical psychologist based in California. Now, you see, she should have been on with our first guest, Hendrika DeFries, you know. But this is good. They're both in California. They're both therapists, psychologists, and it's scary when psychologists and therapists come on a Champagne Sunday show.
I know.
Don't look at my mind. But you may have seen her on Oprah with her book on family dynamics called Because I Said So. Nancy's favorite saying.
Yeah.
She is also the author of 2 books on self-esteem. I love this, especially for women. Whole Heart for Girls and Whole Heart for Young Women. And she's also the author of the children's book series, a beautifully illustrated children's book series, The-Fairy-Godmother Next Door. And she's joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sunday show today to talk about her latest book. It's called The-Fairy-Godmother-Helps-The-Monarchs. Oh, I love it. It's available now on Amazon as are all of her books, and you can also go to her website, Dr-Amy-Stark.com. So welcome, Doctor. How are you?
I am fine.
You know,
cool.
Amy, thank you for joining us. I wanted to say, how are you, Doctor? Because how often do we get to ask doctors how they are?
I know. I am wonderful. Every once in a while, one of my child clients will look at me and say, so how are you today? And I'm always so surprised.
This is lovely. I wanted to say I love your children's book, the illustrations, and I love this one especially because you actually give kids the tools to get out and plant their own garden. So there's a fun, here's the why and how, but the how part is so important. Do you do that with all your books, put the hows in there and to get people out there and doing things?
I try to because I think it's very important to not only give information and tell a story, but at the end you want to say, how can you do this? And what is something you can do? Because when you point out a problem, isn't it nice if you also give some possible solutions?
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, okay, so the fairy godmother next door, I wanted to start from the beginning with this because, again, beautifully illustrated, but having the fairy godmother and her next door, I think is very important because I think kids always have that one person to go to, you know, that helps, like Nancy, you had Nana,
Yeah.
you know, everybody has that maybe, and hopefully they're next door in easy reach. Is that why you decided that the fairy godmother will be next door, because there's kind of someone nearby to help?
Well, it started off because when I lived in my old neighborhood in my house, I lived next door to a family, and I got very attached to them and connected. And as their children were born, I had to be something to them, so I called myself FG, Fairy Godmother. And I was their babysitter. I was the person to come to if there was a problem. I love playing that role, and I do that same kind of thing in my practice also. So I thought, wow, this is just a natural thing, and it also shows how important other people are. Every child is raised by a village, and
right.
It's nice to be a part of someone's village in a helpful way where you can make a difference.
Now, okay, is your dog part of that? Because you've got this beautiful dog in your photo, and I'm like, I want to go hang out with your dog.
Yeah, my dogs are wonderful. The dogs in the book are Rita and Jimmy, and those are the dogs I had previously. But my current dog is Gregory Peck. And he is a big, huge, black standard poodle. That's what I usually have because kids aren't, generally speaking, allergic to those dogs, and they don't shed. And they're very smart and very helpful. And sometimes kids just need to bury their head in the dog.
There's something magical about dogs and horses and having the animal connection. And as we travel full time, sometimes we get to, we miss having animals, number one, but and having them be on our family. But then, we just hung out with our friend Eva's dog Sarah for a few days, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you say it's a dog fix, but then it's a human. It helps. There's something really healing about, dogs. There's just something that makes everything all right. What is it about dogs that you think it is?
I think that they're very bonded to us and interested in being with us and compassionate, and they can tune in, to feelings and respond, and they always want to be with you.
And I don't think they're non-judgmental as long as you're not treating them badly. If you do something mean to them, then they're going to start behaving differently, but they're non-judgmental. They, if you're a good person,
no, they're not.
They're going to wag.
Just out there wanting to be loved and give love and then be with you. And that's
even
the
if
nice
they
part.
bark, they wag their tail like our friend's dog. She would bark, even though we're in the same house, and then she's wagging her tail. It was more like, come on, let's go play.
I know. But this is what you're saying, they just want to love, and isn't that something that we can aspire to as human beings? Kind of learn the lesson from dogs?
Oh, yeah, and just be patient and there and listen. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's why it's important to have. That's why I've always had a dog in my practice, and in all of my fairy godmother books, my dogs are a part of the book. Because dogs are a part of your life.
And becoming a clinical psychologist, but then also I know that you specialize in working with youth and children. What is it that led you into that?
When I was a little kid, I thought when I grow up, I want to be someone who helps kids. I don't know why I had that thought, but I did. So it's just always felt like a natural place. Kids are open. They want to listen. They want to hear. They want to learn. They need to be cared about and listened to, and you can guide and direct them and hopefully create a change for their future that they otherwise might not have had.
Now, you also did Whole Heart for Boys, right? Is that a book or is that part of your programs, your workshops?
It's a book. So the kids, when I do a workshop, I will give each kid the gift of the book to take home with them. And the Whole Heart books are to help kids feel better about themselves and kind of give them some tools. What do you do if there's a bully? What do you do to handle this? Because sometimes things happen to kids, and they always say the same thing. Oh, that's all right. It's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay. The way you got spoken to today in school wasn't okay. Yours can still be all right, but what happened wasn't. And then what are some things you can do about it, and how can you be proactive, and when should you take steps to do something, and when should you back away? And it's part of creating a discussion between either a therapist and their client, or between a mother and a father and their child, or a teacher and their student, to start to talk about how do we talk to each other? How do we deal with each other on the playground? How do we describe somebody else? How do we work out a conflict? And can we do it in a way that doesn't put someone down?
I like that. How do you do that? Speak with good purpose. Yeah, how do you...
The name calling.
Because the immediate thing is when someone, name calls you, you want to turn around and name call them back. I don't care what age we are.
And you also, not only do you want to respond, but you want to get a worse insult than what they handed you. And it just...
and sometimes it is that you have to step back and go, what is this about? And try and get to what the issue is. And cause I also want kids to know that they are not helpless. They don't have to just stand and take it. They need to go get some assistance if they can't solve it themselves. And it's okay to do that. Because we all, and adults have to be mindful. Oh, listening up. When kids are with each other, how are they talking to each other? How do we do it in an okay way? It's not okay. And working on creating friendlier and kinder relationships.
I like that. That's nice.
That's interesting. When you look at, like, you grow up and as a child you're not allowed, like, at least for how I was brought up, mostly by my grandmother, was more laying down rules than my mom. Sorry, Mom, but it's true. And she would say you can't call somebody a name, and because if you do that, it really means that's who you are, not them, and all these things. And the things that I remember, and then you get to a certain age where now you're out of high school and you're going to college or you're taking a job, and you start seeing adults who are still calling people names. Not going to call anybody a name now, but even in the highest office of this country, we have somebody who calls people names. And I'm thinking, where does that finally sink in and turn off, that thing about calling other people names?
Well, I think sometimes it is just being aware of how it makes you feel, and then stopping to think of how it might make someone feel, and then also being aware and being taught that calling a name doesn't create a solution.
Right.
It's so limiting. I mean, where do you go from there? You call someone a name, okay, now you're there. Boom. Now what do you have to do?
Now you're setting your, talk about a gateway drug. You know what I mean? For being, you're going to go further, then it's going to be something really bad. Do you think this is part of also why you came up with a children's book series? So it's racing our little ones to have a really good set of standards, good set of morals that they can enjoy, and actually bring in the entire family to go through the books with them, that to really not just wait until they're teenagers going through things, but to start at a younger age?
Well, I want everyone to start, because I tell parents when they buy the Selfesteem books that I have to read it like once a year. Go over it with your kid once a year. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. Oh, yeah, how's that going with you? Because you get busy, you forget, you're taking kids to soccer. You don't always talk about that. So it kind of reminds you, especially when there's some exercises in the back, like have people say 5 things they like about you. And you can look at that a year later and you go, wow, this is very interesting what this means. My children's books are less about self-esteem and more about feeling good about yourself, and each of the books has a different theme. Like my Fairy-Godmother-Helps-The-Monarchs book obviously has a theme about deciding something's important, taking an action, promising to do something, and then actually doing it. And then say, here's how you can do it, because our monarchs are in trouble. So and I have a garden right outside my office, and every kid who comes in gets a chance to get educated.
Oh, awesome. I love this. And it's a certified garden through the National Wildlife Federation, right?
I got it certified both through the National Wildlife Federation and through the North American Butterfly Association.
Oh, wow. So is it a Monarch space station or no? I'm always get them all twirled around, all these labels. The National Butterfly Association you can get a certification either for monarchs, that it's a monarch habitat, which mine is. Okay.
Or you can get another certification for swallowtails. I don't have the certification, but I have many swallowtails because I have what they like too.
Oh, see, that's awesome. And I love this because the symbolism between butterflies and what you're doing with helping youth is really that. It's like you can transform into, like they always talk about how you didn't know the ugly caterpillar becomes this beautiful butterfly. Isn't that part of what you do, on a day-to-day basis with youth and teaching them that you can become this beautiful butterfly?
You want everyone to believe that they are never done growing and they can always transform to something else. Yeah. And, as they're growing and developing, even as an adult, I don't want adults to feel like, I know everything I need to know. There's so much more out there, and we need to be open to how can we transform any given situation. And so it kind of ties into everything, the self-esteem books, the going out in the garden, the looking at yourself, the trying to deal with the world through the eyes of kindness. Because think about it, butterflies are the most gentle, defenseless creatures ever.
So tell us about this garden, because you planted the right plants, and there's native plants, and this is what I love about, we may have, we want to help the butterflies, and if you're helping the butterflies, you're helping the bees and the hummingbirds, and you're helping spiders, and spiders help them. This whole other part of the garden that I also think is a really good life lesson is about the web of life, about how we all, you take one species out, it hurts the rest of the species, and you help a species, it helps the rest of the species. So there's that lesson of teamwork, but also through putting in the plants that we really need to put back that we've taken out. It's, to pave paradise, we got to put it back.
Yeah, it's really important. As I stand here right now, I'm looking in my little space in front of my office door, and I've had this morning while I was on hold before. There was this eastern giant swallowtail, and they're so big. They're like, I had a kid in my office yesterday who said, it's like a creature, Dr. Stark. There's a creature in your garden. And he's like, it's bigger than a bird. It's big, and right now there's lovely monarch, and the males have a tendency to guard the milkweed, so That's what he's out there doing, and they're so friendly. They greet people on the sidewalk and, kind of fly with them to the door, and it's just,
nice.
Isn't it just the most restful thing to watch nature interface? And you watch that there are ladybugs. Ladybugs have a life cycle. So you watch the ladybugs go through their life cycle, and then when they first hatch, when they're red and no dots yet, and everything you can see. I have bluebirds that come here in the winter, and I have a space for them at a bluebird house, and you just watch nature, and there's a give and take, and there's some things you can't interfere with because you got to let it work its way out, but it's just a lovely thing, and it all began for me with, wow, I had some plants, and I started to realize, I had butterflies coming, and can I maximize that? Because I have a tiny little space here, maybe 10 by 12, and everything's in pots, and I've created a habitat that always has butterflies in it. So it's just a combination of all the different plants, a source of water, a place that's sheltered and protected, trees that they can fly into. It's all those things together that they absolutely love, and then teaching children that they can make a difference and create that for themselves, because here's the sad news. In the state of California alone, last year we lost 99% of our monarch population.
Whoa.
Yeah. That is
a
lot,
sobering statistic.
That's really, really not good at all. I mean, that's I didn't realize that for the state of California. I knew our monarchs were in trouble all the way around, but I didn't know that for California.
Yeah, that's according to the National Wildlife Federation, a statistic that they gave, and we just took a hit last year because of the fires and loss of habitat. Across the country, they're not great statistics either. That's why everyone's concerned with how endangered they are, and can we for the Midwestern ones, the ones that go to Mexico, can we improve their habitat there? Can we give them a place so that as they fly up north in the United States, do they have a place to lay eggs? And because it takes 2 or 3 different generations to get all the way up there, and then one that flies all the way back. So it's understanding that it's such a simple thing to create a butterfly way station. And if a few people do it, few more people do it, we can maybe turn this disaster around.
Oh man, I'm all into it. So we got to have water. We got to have the right native plants, right? Shelter.
We need milkweed. Without milkweed, there's nothing to lay their eggs on, because that's what their caterpillars eat. Is milkweed. And there's and every region of the country has a different kind. Like we have ours out here. I have narrow leaf milkweed and this other regular milkweed kind, and I'm trying to get this third hard-to-get variety, but every time I go to buy it at the nursery, it's already sold out, so I will try for next year. But I have 13 different milkweed plants out here.
Wow. When we were just in southern Colorado, and, because we travel all the time, we see milkweed, but it comes in, like you were saying, there's all these different varieties. We were in Tucson, and it comes in these, there's this vine that grows, and it looks like little alien flowers. I can't explain it, but, every time I look up, I see this design of the flower petals and how it is. Now I'm starting to go, that's going to be milkweed. But how the plant comes in, it's completely different everywhere. We're going from the vine to these giant stalks of these just brilliant yellow flowers. And then when we were in southern Colorado, I mean, these things are like tall and these big giant bulbs of milkweed. And we were seeing, a lot of swallowtails, a lot of different butterflies. I'm not sure I saw monarchs, though, but I saw a lot of swallowtails. But you were talking about male versus female butterflies, and I've never thought of, birds. I always know, like, the males are all flashy compared to the ladies. Is that the same with butterflies?
No, monarchs males have a black spot on their lower wings on each side, and that's how you know.
Okay.
It's a black spot. So when you see it, you go, oh, okay. And I didn't, you just learn by watching them. It's kind of an interesting, because some of the kids come and they go, ooh, what is that? And they try to figure it out, and why do they like that plant? Why don't they? What does this mean? What can they do? How can we help them? And it takes, 2 seconds, a pot, and some milkweed. How hard is that?
I know. Everyone's
exactly.
It doesn't take great gardening skills. I mean, I had one second grader. I did a workshop for Girl Scouts on self-esteem, and at the end I always talk about the plight of the monarchs and what can we do, and it's a good service project. And one little kid, she comes up to me afterwards, she goes, I've been thinking, she said, maybe it's people don't plant milkweed because they think, ooh, it's a weed.
Exactly. You're right. I think she's got a point there because weeds, that's the interesting thing. Like you look at life, you are tending your own garden when you're doing life. And weeds, sometimes you have to look, if you don't have weeds, you ain't got no character.
Well, but, whoever decided what's a weed and what's a good plant. So here's a weed, it's a bad plant. Over here, it's just really what you want in your garden and what you've decided doesn't fit.
Yeah, and it's important to have milkweed, and there's big encouragement for people across the country to have a little way station in their yard, in their field, if they're a farmer, and anywhere, so that the butterflies have a way to lay eggs, get the next generation to be able to fly off, and you need that. Plus, once they hatch, you need a nectar source. And that's why it's important to find out from your local nursery, what sources of nectar do they need. Like in my area, I have brown-eyed Susans. I have butterfly bush. I have lavender. I have salvia. I have Jupiter's beard. I have penta. The hummingbirds love that.
Yeah.
And I have enough varieties so they do have a constant year-round, because it's California, source of nectar.
Cool.
So you've got to have both, and it's pretty simple because when you think about it, what is my space, like 10 by 12, and everything's in a pot, and I've still created this amazing area.
Oh, it's
and it's really fun it's fun for us humans to see them come through and have a beautiful garden, all the color. I wanted to ask you this on the psychology side of this and self-esteem. What does it do for an individual when they go out and do something good? Doesn't that help our self-esteem?
I think kids are very service-minded when you get them going on what's important. And there are kids who come and they have gone home and planted something and they bring their pictures. Look, Dr. Amy, I went home and I put 2 pots of milkweed in my backyard. And look, I took pictures. I already have caterpillars. Now I'm going to wait to see where they go. I mean, and they're like, look, I did this. Look, it made a difference. Look, you were right. The monarchs came right away. You were right. It worked. And see, I'm helping. I'm doing something that's helping nature.
See, it's cool because it's not just words. It's cause and effect, and they get to see it for real and not wait 10 years. It's
right.
like I did this.
And it's not like, sometimes kids say, oh, yeah, I'm going to save this or I'm going to do this, and it's such a daunting task. How are you supposed to do that? What does that mean? This is something you can actually go home and for minimal money. For minimal money and just with care and taking care of the plant and watering and watching, you get an immediate result, and it makes you feel good. And you said you were going to do something, stating intent, so important to state intent, and then you actually did it. Wow, look at that. I get results. That's another thing you learn for adult years. When I state my intent and something's important and I take appropriate action, I get a positive result.
Ooh.
Exactly.
I like that. And if you just keep going, too, and it starts, breeding into that, I'm going to have another part of my garden. One thing, too, that I think is really important that you've done is you've done your garden in a place that the public can see. Your patients can come in and see. And I think that's something that, we've done a lot of interviews with David Mizejewski from the National Wildlife Federation. He's done a lot of gardening tips, and if you go to blendradioandtv.com, everyone, you'll see David up in our expert department. And we've done a whole thing about the importance of getting kids in the dirt and gardening. And there's almost a fear of dirt in the world. And put the phones down and get in the dirt. It feels good.
It's cleaner.
But I was talking every time I look at, like, we're in a hotel right now. It's beautiful, and they do have flower pots outside, and they do things. And I look at, like, why can't we take all businesses across the country and make them into a wildlife, garden, that attracts butterflies, birds, that kind of thing. Because then it's not only beautiful for everybody, we're putting the right native plants in, and we're changing the entire habitat of what we're doing so that it's almost like a park, like a national park, like it would be back in nature in suburbia and within our industrial areas. We can put these gardens in so that, I remember David saying at one point, we've created dead zones for wildlife, birds, butterflies, and wildlife. So if we took every space we had and put in these native plants and do what you've done, you've gone, hey, I've only got this 10 by 10 space, and I'm going to do it in pots. Problem solved. You can do it. We gardened in the desert. We made it work, But I think it's important that we do it in these public spaces because it's, number one, beautifying them, and creating, because public spaces get left out all the time, but I think it's also educating people that come into the public space.
Yes, it is, because everyone who comes, firstly, is astounded to see this because it's in the middle of a shopping center. I was lucky enough to get a spot in the back I have 11 jacaranda trees in front, and some grass, nice. which is good for an occasional game of croquet on the lawn. And sometimes I do that with kids, or bubbles on the lawn. And they walk in here and they go, where did this come from? And it's this little beautiful oasis. I also have, I'm an avid fairy gardener, so I also have a fairy garden and a place that they can leave a fairy wish if they'd like to. And it's open for everyone so that people can come and see. And when I have time and people show up, I will go out and educate. Hi, let me talk to you about why this is important. And look, you can do this. And look what a difference some pots and some soil and some love and caring makes. And watch the delicate little monarchs who are out here who I can't even imagine what they go through. When you think how delicate they are and how vulnerable they are when they first come out of the cocoon and they're just laying there hoping to dry, hanging there. The fact that they survive any of this is amazing to me. And watch this whole cycle that we've all forgotten about. And then take a look at the seasons in a garden, especially in California, a place that's not season-driven, where kids forget there's a season, which is why I change out some of the flowers. I make a different fairy garden for every season. I want to teach there is a season. We're coming up. It will be fall. What happens in fall? It's harvest. It's this. And you want to teach all that stuff because people, video games are not everything. You've got to go outside.
I think that's important because then you get to deal with real life, reality, not some algorithm. And that's what I'm worried about, what is happening to our youth and to our adults.
You can't, video games can reproduce sound, sort of, and they can do visual things, but they can't do the smells of a garden.
No, they can't, and they can't have, one of my family was out here one day, and the bluebirds were here at the time, and I thought, oh my gosh, and they had already supposed to have left, and I went outside, and they go, we're videotaping. We never get to see the western bluebird anywhere. I don't know where they came from. You're in the city. This makes no sense. I said, well, that's okay. They're here, and I'm feeding them. Or another family once I had last fall, I had taken in the eastern swallowtail caterpillars because I was worried that there was a bird here kind of picking things off, and then, So I took them in my butterfly box, and you got to feed them the leaves they like, and they particularly like fennel, dill, and rue, a plant called rue. And I kept sticking that thing in, and all of a sudden, they did their cocoon thing. And one day they were sitting on my desk, and this family was in the waiting room, and they're videotaping that they're coming out of the cocoon. And the mom goes, I'll never get to see this again. She's videotaping. She says, this is amazing because they're huge. And so it's things like that people, anyone can create it. I'm in the middle of a shopping center complex.
You're in San Diego, right?
What?
You're in San Diego?
I'm in Santa Ana.
Santa Ana. Okay.
Santa Ana. And across the street, across the way, is a park. And I am in lovely downtown Santa Ana, kind of near the Discovery Cube. And here I am in this place all surrounded by lots of cement, some little green space areas, not much. And I have created this in the midst of that. that, which means anyone can do that.
Exactly. Exactly. I love this. Well, I raise a champagne toast to you because I think, Dr. Stark, you've created something that's magical. And also going to any kind of doctor, be for mind, body, spirit, is a daunting thing for us. And I always say to a dentist, the one dentist I had actually put a hummingbird stained glass thing up in the window so I could look at it. So I'm just saying, this is where it is. But having nature be part of your experience gets you back to reality quicker than anything. I think that's important in regards to when you're going through any kind of therapy, that you have nature be part of your guide. I mean, that's beautiful what you've done in regards to that. Yeah, I think that really helps because it's daunting, and a lot of us don't want to go to therapy. We're like, oh, no, And so when you know that there's birds and butterflies, it's like, okay, we can do that. And it's an attraction for kids to go, okay, I can go in and have a good time. So I really appreciate that. But we want to know what your champagne toast is. What are you happy about?
What am I happy about? I'm happy to hear when people are involved with helping the monarch and this delicate creature that we want to keep on this planet as long as possible. I'm happy to hear when people are working with children and care enough to shape ideas and make them be the very best they can be. And I'm happy every day to look outside and see nature in front of me and how beautiful it is with such little effort on my part.
I know, but in the little effort that you do is fun. And isn't that the first thing you do is go look and see what's going on in the garden? Yeah. When you go to work, that's the first thing, right?
Like every day when I go outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening now? Oh my gosh, what about this? Yeah. Oh my God, should I water? Oh my God, what's growing? Because I've got some really interesting kind of plants. I have one plant that I did this year that's called a moonflower, and it's this vine, and I have it growing up, my little fairy fort. And when it blooms, it will bloom. Each bloom is a one-day deal, and it starts to bloom at night. And it's like science, where you can watch the bloom open up. You're like, oh my gosh, this is like science. And you watch it, and this beautiful smell, this big white bloom, only for at night. Stunning. So you have things like that. You think, this is miraculous. I get to watch it. What did I do? Plant a seed. Not like that's hard.
Nature does the work.
And I just have to tend and care and fertilize and make sure it gets trimmed appropriately, which I enjoy because I love, how it looks, and I have pride in this space, and I want people to share in the love and enjoyment of it. So what a benefit for everybody, and me included.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
Very cool.
Thank you for what you're doing with your books and your work. I think it's really important that someone is out there doing good stuff with kids and family because it's all connected, And I think it's really cool in regards to also self-esteem with what you're doing, because I always think action leads to self-esteem. The more action you do. Builds confidence.
And stated intent. I'm teaching kids a lot about stated intent. What is your intent for today? What is it you want to accomplish? In fact, can parents do that with kids on the way in the car anywhere? Hi, what would we like today? And kids will say, I want to have a good math thing, or I want to get along with my friend, or I want to enjoy my reading, or can you think of something? And can parents show that when they state intent, and then at the end of the day, how'd it go? What happened with your stated intent? Did something happen? Was it a good day? Did you notice this? Did you work on the thing you most needed to work on? So that everything is like, wow, that was good. We interacted. We talked about something hard. We talked about something that I'm struggling with. People care to check up on me afterwards.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it's a conversation topic for families, too, because of the phone thing. I think it's important that there's conversation, and then when you do get the conversation and it's constructive.
Yes, and then you give your kid, even though you're driving, even if it's when you're in the car. I tell parents, God, you got a captive audience. If you can get them off their phone and talk a little bit, how was your day? How did it go? What did you learn? What happened? That's good time to use to impart some knowledge. And can you teach them by what you're working on and what you do and what's important to you and how you feel about yourself? And can you also be cautious and mindful about how you describe your current situation, so they think there's always a solution. It just needs to be, a problem is just a solution that hasn't been found yet. So you have to you have to be positive that things can always work out in some kind of meaningful way, and you're where you're supposed to be.
Oh, I love
teach
that.
some of that. Kids have some life skills, and they can learn a few of those interspersed among your drive.
I like that. I like that for sure. And that's for all of us. That's for all of us, quite frankly. Everybody, again, the book is called The-Fairy-Godmother-Helps-The-Monarchs. It's by Dr. Amy Stark, and you can find her on Amazon. You can also go to her website, Dr-Amy-Stark.com. That's Dr-Amy-Stark.com. So go check all her books out and keep up with what she does over in beautiful Southern California. And go see her garden. We're coming to see you, Dr. Stark, when we get out there. I want to come see your garden. I want to play with the swallowtails and the monarchs. My gosh. I'll bring my camera.
They're pretty impressive. They're out here today putting on quite a show.
Awesome. I know.
Cool.
You never know what's going over at Dr. Stark. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Well, you take care and enjoy the rest of your show over at your place.
I will.
Okay.
Cool.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.